This itself, I always think, is a unique spot. The home at the Black Sod, from there to Carrottyke to Ballycroy. These are unique places. I don't think these places could be copied or imitated anywhere else in the world. There's a unique people came from these places here. We live in the Barony of Erris, which is the size of County Louth. The population, no doubt, has dwindled. Less lights on in a village now than there used to be. An awful lot of the younger people in the area now are away, and there isn't as much work going on in the land as there used to be. And there's a greater use of machinery, so there's less people required to do the same amount of work. I was reared in a village myself as a child growing up. I remember it very well. It had a church, 2 shops, 2 pubs, post office, its own football team. There was great social interaction between all families. They all helped each other, bring in their harvest. The men went to England, the women stayed at home, reared the families. And there was bits of local work then in factories and places like namely Boardnamona, the ESB in Bellacorrick, Eagle Isle Seafoods in Dahoma, the Grassmill factory in Mungmore. Sadly today they're all gone. That brought about a change in itself.
Things have changed so much since I was born. When I got married in 1950, at that time we didn't have a washing machine or an electric iron or any gadgets that could ease your work. We worked hard with a washing board and a tub and boiling water for washing the clothes every Monday. I had 10 children and they used to wear white ankle socks, and it used to take me the best part of an hour to scrub and wash the ankle socks.
But people either walked or some on horseback. There was very few cars and not a lot of bikes even. So I know when I was young, anywhere I went I had to run or walk, or I hadn't a bike even. When I was very young, I even played a game or 2 of football in my bare feet. I hadn't boots.
We all were brought up where you worked, brought home turf with the donkey, and sometimes you'd overload him and he'd lie down. If he was overloaded with the pardogs, as we used to call them, creels, he'd decide, well now I've had enough, especially at the end of the day. And I'm sure we had enough too. We were only young, I believe we didn't take much notice. There was hardship. Everyone hadn't everything they wanted.
If we were shot to Granite here when I was up the road, Port County going to whatever, Granite, please. They'd be Bob, they'd be shot of sugar, down to my mother and father. Bottle of milk, or a jug of milk if they had a jug. If they had a jug, they'd be lucky.
A pot oven on the hearth for baking bread. We didn't have electric cookers, we didn't have much electricity at all. The only thing we had was the light. The farmers used to work very, very hard with the scythe to save the hay. Now they have it baled, they have electricity, they have tractors, they have every gadget that can be got.
When I was young, there'd be 6 or 7 here reeking the hay. You'd have 2 horses pulling in the cocks of hay from the field. And that time there was work attached to it because you had to cut the rushes then away maybe 2 or 3 miles from the house for thatching the reek. And the suckings had to be made then from the straw that was thrashed. you know, with the twister. There was no rope that time or net or anything for covering the thatch, so you had to make the suckers.
Then the tractors came, and, you know. I remember when we first got our tractor, it was nice to be able to drive it when I was small, and I thought that I was a great driver. I don't think I could drive at all, but they used to let me, my brother Jack had let me drive, and I thought, oh, I was great. But the tractor would go through the drills on its own because it wouldn't move over, and I thought, oh, at 5 or 6 above the tractor, I was great. I thought I was the bee's knees.
And of course, the women of the house at that time, they were the people I think that worked really hard. They'd get the tea and the men would sit back, and when they start in chat playing again, the woman of the house would go over and start spinning, you know, getting the thread ready for knitting socks, and then she might have a cake in the oven at the fire at the same time. So I always thought, and I'm sure of it, that our mothers, they were the people that really worked hard.
Women were constantly working. Women long ago used to have to help their husbands out on the land because they didn't have the equipment they have nowadays or the machinery they have. They used to have to go out and help them and be glad to go out and help them because they were rearing children and they needed money badly, like, you know. But technology has improved so much. I couldn't believe how the world is today. Everybody has running tap water. They have telephones in every home. They have every modern convenience.
There's nobody poor like there were, I suppose, years ago. There was a lot of immigration, although it's still in it. Maybe there could be more activity because the young ones are leaving and the population is going down.
The immigration has always been a curse, and to see the finest young men and women from all over Erris immigrating, it's very sad.
I was 14 years of age before I saw the first plane, and I was in my last year in the national school. When we'd hear the noise of the plane, it was deafening. We'd all run out looking at the plane. It wasn't as high in the sky as they are now, and it wasn't silent. They made terrific noise. I used to say to myself, how could that bundle of iron, how could it stay up in the air, and how can the people be safe?
People go away now to far off places. They can come from Australia now in 24 hours. Whereas I remember, you know, as a young fella growing up, it would take them longer than that to get to London. It could take them maybe 48 hours.
Years and years ago, friends of mine went to America and they never ever came home. Nowadays, they're flying home every second and third year to see their families. That didn't happen years ago. They went and they never came back.
I think long ago it was terrible altogether because I know of parents that said goodbye to their children and never saw them again. I had a brother myself, he went to New Zealand in 1956. He was in England since he was a young lad and just took an ocean and went to New Zealand, and he didn't come back for 30 years. I didn't think he'd ever come back, but he did. He came back in 1985, his first time in 30 years. But he's old now, like he won't be coming again.
It's strange as a community because even though we are more connected, you know, and I say connected, like people talk today about how well communities are connected, and definitely electronically they're well connected through, email and Facebook and all that. But it doesn't mean there's times when people aren't isolated either, you know.
The Erris region would be known as one of the most isolated in the country. It's a massive area. Planning permission is so difficult to get that most people are moving towards the town, leaving the older population and a lot of rural dwellers living in very isolated areas. The transport infrastructure, the transport in the cities is fantastic, but in the rural areas we're really lacking that. So it's just important that older people get out into the communities, meet others. That's where we come in as the core coming.
The Meals on Wheels service here in the parish of Kiltane covers parish of Kilmore and also Belmullet. It delivers an average around 300 meals a week. We've been doing this now for a number of years. It's continued to grow. There's been a great need for this service. There's a great interaction with our clients. It's a visitation service as well, which is unique with this. Not alone do the people get their meal delivered to the door, but they also see the friendly faces of our staff coming as well, and they have a chat with them, and there's a brief interaction on each occasion with what's going on in the area, maybe bits of chat, stuff like that,
The Meals on Wheels is more than just the meals delivery service. It's the one-to-one contact that is given on a daily basis that is essential in this service. It's someone to say hello to during the day. It can be sometimes the only person they see from one end of the day to the next. The Core Coming was set up by members of the community. So what we try to do is provide a range of non-medical services. So there's visitation, small shopping trips if you want to pick up a carton of milk or a newspaper. We also do the pinned alarm system as well. If anyone wants a pinned alarm, they usually ring here and we can organise that. Sometimes we get calls, phone calls, just maybe a chat on the phone. It can be something as simple as that.
I'm getting Meals on Wheels now with a good while from Gisela. I know you have fridges now and you have freezers and all this. But the grand thing, to come to your door, Printy Wood, knock knock, meal up there, €6, sweet and all, thank you very much. Into your microwave, 2 minutes, sit down. Cat in the milk. Not a mug of milk, no good, cat in the milk.
I don't know what we would do without you.
Thanks, Noel.
That's grand.
No, no.
Oh, lovely.
That's your receipt. Thanks a lot.
That's really nice.
And we'll see you tomorrow.
That's grand, thanks.
See you tomorrow. All right, Noel. Bye now. Take care.
Really all night.
You have bacon and cabbage, you have beef, you have minced meat, and you have stew. I think now, what more could have been asked? And fish. Fish down to me, yes, once a week, I like fish.
Hello, Patsy.
Give me it's been time going quick.
Hello, Patsy.
This is Saturday morning.
How are you doing?
Good, thank you, Mayor. The meals are good, that's for sure. Stand fish.
Tis, isn't it?
And the other thing.
There's a need for services like Meals on Wheels. There's a need for people to check in on each other and say, how are you doing today? How has your life been today?
Patsy, we'll see you the next day. See you tomorrow. Take care.
We also have a community laundry service. We actually now have a delivery service, so we have a new electric van that goes around and picks up people's laundry and drops it back as well.
A lot of work going on here at the moment. People are coming through the door all the time with stuff. A lot of ironing at the moment as well, which is grand for anybody that likes it. It's not my favourite job, but it's okay. I drive the van as well for the delivery and pick-up service, and that takes us all over, basically. Could be any place, out in Claggan or back in Ahadoon or Bangor Erris, to Homa, wherever we have to go. It benefits everybody. Old people are very happy because they don't have to be worrying about beds and laundry while their families are home with them, and they tell us it's a great service. One man told me in particular that he was so pleased with it. He said, you know, he don't know what he would do without this service, you know, because he can't manage his ironing and he can't manage his washing, and for them I suppose it's very good. We're driving on the strand. I suppose you could say it is a lovely sand here, and the tide is out at the moment, so it's perfect for driving. I was worried the first day I did it because I was scared. I thought I was going to go down in some hole with the tide or something, but no, it's dead solid, it's fine. Back for you now. Thank you. You grab that one. I grab that, yeah. We'll just go up here to Noel Wilson now and we'll meet Noel Day's house. I'll be back again on Tuesday with those to you. And you have received your meals and fields today?
I have that, I have, yeah. I couldn't do without them.
Back in Gisela again now.
There's about 14 to 16 older people that come here every week. They have a hot meal and usually scones on arrival. The Wentz group have been coming here for years. It's just a place where they can come, have a chat, talk about the bingo last night. They're big into the bingo over here.
Yeah, 6 and 8, 68. Now we have 4 and 2, 42. 8 and 1, 81. 3 and 8, 38.
It's just an open space, a comfortable place for them to have a gathering point.
All the 3s, 33.
That is what they're looking forward to in the new community centre too. There's a fine heritage room over there that's going to be for them to come in every week. It's the community council that applied for planning to enhance the centre. It'll be a sports centre of excellence, but also there'll be a kitchen, which is for ourselves, and a massive heritage room.
This is a good news story here for the village of Gisela. I'm delighted to be part of this. It'll be good for the elderly, it'll be good for the young people. It's vitally important to have places like this where everyone can mingle. This is a place for everyone. Sometimes, you know, it's not all about pubs and clubs and things like that. There's great stories to be told like in the old days.
When I was growing up, I picked up a lot of stories by listening to the older people coming in visiting to us and sitting around the fire and telling stories.
You would have your story, I'd have my story, somebody else would have their story. It passed the night.
They wouldn't even knock on the door, they just lift the latch and come in.
There's no visit now. When the television came in, that all stopped.
Now when you go to a house, you knock on the door, there seems to be 3 or 4 locks on the door first of all, and then when they let you in, they think, God, is there something wrong? I thought there was something wrong when I seen you coming.
The visiting has stopped now, and I blame the telly a bit for it too. If the television was on, you know, there wasn't much stories told. You were inclined to be looking at it. The young ones now, you see that they're not hearing them.
Well, that's the way the traditions die. I was the same when I was young. They'd be telling you stories that you should be listening to. But you used to be bored. I used to be bored and I used to be sick of them.
The van picked up here a Wednesday morning.
Good morning, gentlemen. How are you, right?
Hefting water 11.
So if you take those gone through a recession, we've created 40,000 jobs.
Picked up his passengers.
We're a community centre in Balmullet. We've an open door policy. Everyone is welcome. Whatever your need is, we don't turn anyone away. It's home away from home for a lot of people. A lot of our service users, you know, would live alone. Friendships are formed here.
Right, left, come on. She's there. She doesn't know what hand to switch. This is your right hand. Fold the arms now and you can put the baby asleep. Okay, and just do from the hips. Make sure you're up straight in the chair. Very good. Jizzy, you're quite children. And close and open. And give the hand right from the wrist on both ways. That you're calling people for the team. Tell them come in fast, the tea is ready. And then we'll warm the hands in again. Go on, keep them going. And put them to your cheeks this time. Which is the warmest?
Cheeks.
Your cheeks? Oh, well, that's, you have it all in the head, so.
People need to gather.
Look over your left shoulder. That's your left, Kathy, yeah?
They need to gather in a comfortable surroundings. They need to be able to sit down, feel relaxed in a comfortable surrounding, a place that lends itself to warmth, to homeliness, lends itself to conversation where friends can sit and chat for a while of a day or whatever time, you know, and feel comfortable in that space. A space like community centre lends itself to that sort of ease where people can go comfortably in.
2 o'clock you go playing cards.
By all means. By all means. That's for sure.
Oh, I love cards. I could play cards 24 hours. One time now with a priest here called Father Levin, and he'd have a game of cards in one house tonight. It could be Tuesday night. He'd have a game of cards in the same village in a different house a Thursday night, and that was good crack. He'd be there till 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. Great pastime.
There'd be the odd house dance then. Some young person in the village might ask a house owner, could we have a dance in your house next week?
1 and 6, 16.
The answer would be yes. There'd come maybe 2 or 3 accordion players and the kitchen would be full and the tea would be got for them and everything. I remember it well, even here in this house and other houses as well as here, but we used to look forward to it, you know, and I can nearly see them yet dancing around the floor.
It was a great time in my young days. We'd go dancing. It wasn't discos that time, but we had lovely dance halls. And when you were dancing, you had a good grip of your man, and you'd be waltzing and foxtrotting on one step. I can't understand now. They're swirling around and they're a mile away from each other.
Social contact is a big issue. People need to have more social engagement. That's old and young. Everybody needs it.
If you don't mix with people, you don't know what's going on. You don't know the day of the week eventually. You know, you have to come out and meet people and hear what they have to say, because if you don't, you stagnate and you won't you live in a kind of a world of your own. So you need to go to different places and go to outings, and the only other places you go is mass and funerals.
We have a brilliant community centre here, which is great for us. Like, it's a place for whatever we want to dance, or Kaylee or senior citizens come there on a Friday to have their meal. They're brought there on the minibus and dropped off and collected again.
It's very important to keep meeting new people and, I suppose, keep in contact with the friends that you always had over the years. In this area, we'd have an awful lot of people who would be on their own, so these services are essential in this area.
I suppose one of the biggest losses a person could experience is the loss of a partner. For the first time in their life, maybe that person might feel alone. They might have a lot of people around them, but they could still feel very alone because the person that they loved and lived their life with is now gone.
Sure, out there, but when you're there, sure, I do enjoy it. It's only a couple of hours, I know, but it's quite a great thing.
In a rural area like this, because of technology, everything has moved on so quickly with social media. Everybody's lives are so busy now. Some people can get left behind, and I think the elderly are one of those groups that are a little bit left behind. The old way of everybody knowing each other, neighbours calling in to visit, that's almost gone, unfortunately.
I won nothing. I win not.
We can communicate a lot with people, all right, but it's important to talk. I think that it's hard to beat a conversation. Everyone goes around now with a mobile phone. People text each other, mightn't spell that well, but they text each other.
They're too busy with their mobile phones. They're there tipping away all the time, they haven't time to talk.
Everyone has them now. I'd hate to be on Facebook. I'd hate it. I'd hate people think they know everything about you.
Back in the day, there was no need for an electronic device to say how many friends you had, or you didn't tick a box to say how many likes you got either, There was no need, you spoke to your neighbour, person next door.
Your neighbour beside you is very, very important. It's very important to be friendly with your neighbour. Nothing like it, and especially old people.
Whereas you could have a discussion with someone in Beijing now very easily via Skype or whatever, you may not have a discussion with your neighbour next door, just as quick or as handy. One time you would. You'd be leaning across the fence. You could nip in for the bowl of sugar. Life like that has changed,
It's essential that the older people mix with the youth in the area. Obviously, they're full of wisdom and have plenty of life experience.
That would be the ideal situation, where you would have the elders of the community, where they could come in and sit down, and, where the younger people around the place would come and sit and chat with them and maybe listen to some of their life experiences and allow them to tell their stories. And it's lovely. I find myself to sit in the company of an older person and just to hear their thoughts on life.
I don't know if there ever was a thesis done or a study done, but I know that young people that's reared in the presence of older grandparents, they have a different understanding, and there's no one can tell you about life better than people that have lived through it. They have seen the different times, the different changes. When they were young, there was no messages going all over the world. They had to wait for a letter to come from America, from England or whatever. And sometimes it's very difficult for the younger people to understand that.
The immigration again has ruined everything, because a lot of old people, I'm old myself now, and there's a lot of us in this parish old now, and I don't know what's going to happen really. When they go now, it's further afield. It's Australia, Canada, New Zealand, and I know there's fast ways of getting home now, but still, when they settle down, and there's no guarantee they're ever going to come back. Maybe their children come back to see where their parents came from or something like that, but there's really no employment in the parish. Politicians in urban areas, they haven't a clue what's suitable for us. They really don't understand our situation at all. I can't pinpoint what would be the best, but I'd love if there was something to keep the youth, or at least some of them anyway, because without the youth we're lost.
Since 2008, any young boy or girl that qualified for engineering or whatever they qualify for cannot get jobs in Ireland. They have to move to Canada and Australia, which is very, very sad. But I'm hoping they'll come back home someday and live for the rest of their lives at home. Please God, the country will pick up again.
For people growing old in an area like this, personally, I wouldn't want to grow old any other place.
I would live in town now. Oh, no way in the world. I know it's only a small town, but I wouldn't live in it anyway. I wouldn't have the freedom.
You can go out and you don't need to worry about anything. And I know I for one wouldn't like to live in a city anyway. The few times ever I went to England to work, I didn't know what was wrong. I couldn't, I felt if I got out of the city, way out in the open, that I was fine.
Well, you have the fresh air, number one. I'm living right beside the sea. No smog or smoke. We have the most wonderful beaches. Dohuma, Gisela, Dula. We don't have monsoons or we don't have terrible, terrible hurricanes. We have bad weather and cold weather, but nothing that will kill us. It's nourishment in itself to live in Erris.
The day that we're born, we're given an address. Even our baby being born in a hospital today. There's a few things they get straight away. They get a name and address. So straight away you know who you are and you know where you're from. We knew where we were from without that procedure. You know, it was embedded in us from the day that we were born around here. It's been in our hearts and in our souls and our minds ever since, you know. We're not going to lose that by just being transported to another part of the world or wherever, you know, because the fastest mode of transport any person can have is their own mind. It will bring you back straight away. It's what John O'Donoghue would call a sense of belonging. We have that in abundance here.
They're always old as a field.